Stream will start in just a few moments. It hasn't ended yet, but it's making a good try of it. Well, that depends. If you're looking for some hot Animal Crossing gameplay, then no, it is not the right stream. If you're looking for some experimental prototyping, then why, yes, you are in the right spot. Alright, it is 9:30. So, oops, nope, wrong keyboard shortcut. There we go. Apparently Control-Shift-H also brings up Find and Replace in Visual Studio. Good morning, and welcome to another experimental stream. Continuing on from my efforts to prototype out the Atelier Ryza combat system. So as a quick reminder, for anyone who did not catch the first one, let me get up a... Do I still have... Oh, well, okay. No quick reminders then, because apparently the video that I had showing the combat has gotten moved. So, but the combat system, Atelier Ryza, has this active turn-based system, and I've got this mostly working here. And I'll talk about it, but basically players are on the left, monsters are on the right. Their icons fall down. Once they reach down to the bottom, they initiate their attack and then get reset back up. So, where I left off last time is I was having some difficulties with the weight system. So if I expand this out, so I have the image, the player turn icon. Oops, no, not the turn icon. The image player icon here, which is the light green circle. And the script allows me to set the weight. So is it 100%? In other words, does it go all the way up to the top and is very delayed? Or is it, say, nope, not as player controlled, because that's completely broken right now. Or is only 25%, at which point the player goes to there. And what was happening is it would work perfectly fine if I had a weight of 1, but any other weight caused it to behave very strangely. And what I found out is that the way my logic was set up, if I have this positioned someplace else other than, come on, Unity behave. Like I say, if I have it positioned here in the editor, it still knows where to go for 100%, but it doesn't know how to handle any other weight, basically, because it uses this as its anchor point instead of using that as its anchor point. Now, there's a couple of very interesting questions that came up as a result of doing this system. And the biggest question that, new question that I have, although I'm going to continue on with the system, is how do I efficiently get this all lined up? Because I've got this icon thing here, and it's like, okay, how, if I get this positioned correct, which, yeah, the scaling and everything's not good. If I have it positioned like this, how do I perfectly get this centered and then get the anchor points to match where this is positioned? I get the feeling that's going to have to be a custom script, like, have like a button that shows up in the inspector or something that says lock anchor to position, because I don't think there is anything like that. Because like the align tools aren't going to work. Yeah, it's an interesting question, but it's one that I will hold off on. So let me undo all of that. Just leave it cheesily offset like that. Okay, so the next portion that I need to worry about for this is I need to get, oops, no, not asset store, is I need to get a 3D scene set up with 3 actors, 2 enemies, just sort of as a trial setup scene. And once it becomes someone's turn, they move towards a specified spot, move back, and that'll represent the attack. Once I have that set up, then I need to get the player command UI set up. And yeah, there's lots of things to link in. Okay, so, but let's start with zooming in here. Let's toss a terrain in here. I'm going to make it a very small terrain so it doesn't take up a lot of building processing stuff. Light mapping time. There we go. Use the technical words. Yes, the technical words. Yeah, I don't need a terrain that big. Let's just pull this down to 250 by 250. Let's offset it. I'm just going to get rid of that tab because I keep clicking on it. Let's get, no, not a create empty. Get a capsule that'll represent the player. Somewhat like Final Fantasy. I find the system to be, it's closer to the active turn-based systems of the older Final Fantasies, but a lot more energetic. Yeah, okay, UI, you can go away for the moment. All right, so I will say that the center player will always be at 0, 0. All right, so if I set my camera there, don't want to spend too much time trying to get the camera view set up. Just want it good enough. All right, so this will be player 0, 1. Well, I'll just do player 0, 1 for the moment, and because I want to get that set up. Okay, so let's get rid of these other 2 capsules. Probably shouldn't have put those in. Now for the fun part is Yeah, I mean, it is very rhythm game-esque, but in this particular case, there's no rhythm about it. The AI controllers automatically attack as soon as their icon hits, and the player will pause until you enter in a command. Grandia, there we go. That was the game. Grandia 2. The combat system is actually far, far closer to Grandia 2 than it is to any of the Final Fantasies, in that your actions can knock back and delay enemy turns. So if you want a reference to this combat system, an equivalent to Grandia 2 is there. Makes for a very interesting combat system. Okay, so we got that. Now, I think the best approach. Ooh, now this is an interesting one. I guess static scene? Ooh, interesting question. Okay, so as far as prototyping, getting everything just working for an isolated combat scene, I am not going to go down this rabbit hole. But in terms of making this work in a larger project, it's like, okay, how do I get it set up so that I have a singular combat scene that I can then configure to load in any background, any configuration of players, and any configuration of monsters, and still have everything linked up correct. That's a different rabbit hole, so I'm not going to go down that way. I'm just going to hard link everything in. So players and monsters have identical scripts. They're AI control. Well, I'll make it separate for the moment. So let's add a component onto this. Player battle control. Create an add. By the way, just as a quick side note, my UI looks slightly different because I'm using 2019.3 instead of 2019.2. Which I suppose is only a relevant comment to my students for anyone watching the VOD of this later on. All right, now I'm definitely going to need a link to that anchor slide script. And what would be the best way? Let's come in here. This is a bit of, I've got lots of hacky stuff going on in here. Which again is kind of the point of a prototype. It's just hacking it together until it works, and then stepping back and looking at it and going, okay, here's the hack together way of making it work. Now let's rewrite it so that it works sensibly. So there's a lot of very not sensible stuff going on right now. All right, so I tried to avoid doing this in the prototyping stuff. Excuse me. I'm going to have to use a little bit of more advanced C# here, because it just seems the most efficient way of doing this. Let's... I'm going to have to use, so I guess I don't have to, but I am going to use something called an interface. So for the design students that might be watching this, this is not something you've seen before. Honestly, some of the programming students, you might not have seen this before, depending on what point you are in the program. But an interface is basically defining methods that a class is guaranteed to have. So rather than having anchor slide to try to talk back and forth between a player battle controller and a monster battle controller, because there's definitely enough difference that I want those two classes separated. I think that'll be the best, at least for the hacky version. Having an interface of saying, okay, here's the methods that any type of battle controller is going to have. And that initially is going to be public void notify turn. No, right. You don't do that for interfaces. So anything that has the iBattle control interface must implement notify turn, which means over on anchor slide, I can put in a reference to an iBattle control I'll say link battle actor. I guess I could just make that public too, but oh well. See here, linked actor. Oops. Syntax for the win. And now, just for the moment, not having any player-controlled stuff. Okay, so here, I'm going to put a note here. Okay, so now that should take care of getting them to talk to one another. Let's do this one step at a time, one step at a time. Okay, so battle icon, image player icon, there we go. So now nothing interesting is going to happen, other than I shouldn't be receiving null reference exception errors. So I test it one thing at a time. Oh, did I actually? I did actually forget to call that. Ooh, there's another. Okay, I'll figure that out later. It's caught another interesting issue. So, quick note on the this keyword. Again, remember the this keyword refers to the current object that you are in. And since I implement iBattleControl, this component is an iBattleControl. So I can just pass in the this keyword and things will get linked up correctly. Like I said, it's a little bit more advanced programming compared to what I usually like to try to use, but it's just the way my mind's thinking at the moment. Wanting to overcomplicate everything. You can run sometime this afternoon if you don't mind, or sometime this morning. Yes, no, maybe? You're not building. It's like, we're not caught in some kind of crazy loop, are we? No? Okay. There shouldn't... No? Okay, that was just weird. I have no idea what went on there. I am still getting no reference errors, but at least I'm getting my meeps. Monster icon doesn't have anything yet. Let's disable monster until for the moment, until I get a monster in. Okay, so that is working completely. So it is getting notified when it's supposed to take its action. Now the next part is I need, well, you to detach so I can edit the code. Probably need to clean this up a little bit, actually, is what I need to do. Because here's the tricky. Okay, so here's the part that I'm caught up on. So when the icon gets down here, needs to act, and how far up we go here is going to depend on the weight of the skill. So actually, the actor needs to inform this. Okay, so public void I mean, technically it's a public, but I don't want to mess with that. Okay. So set new weight. And okay, so let's have it this. I think I would actually have to start up Ryza again to take a look at how exactly the combat system handled this. But if memory is serving me correctly, even if it doesn't, this is how I'm going to implement it. The hesitation that I'm kind of building in here with the pause time is actually waiting for the animation to complete. I think I still want to put the pause time in there because there are actions in which we can just... That's useful for stunning for a certain amount of time. So leave that in there. And that's... Okay. Starting to get caught up in a lot of different threads here. So, what I think I will do is, as much as I was not wanting to do this on camera, you know what? I think I just got to stop for a moment and refactor this code because I have boxed myself into a little bit of a corner. And that's something to keep in mind when you're doing loosey-goosey with the code prototyping, is that if you go in without a plan, and this applies also for those of you that would be using Playmaker to do your work. If you go in without any plan whatsoever, you'll be able to get it to work to a point. And then you'll reach something like this where you're like, oh, but it's the plate of spaghetti issue. You move a noodle on the left side of the plate and a meatball on the right side of the plate falls off. So what I'm running into here is, did I actually change it to the point of it breaking? No, I don't think I did. Yeah, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That sums it up pretty much exactly. Now, there is an advantage to doing this. Like, again, I just didn't know how I wanted to get this done. So I just started writing code. I wanted to experiment, figure out, like, how exactly is this going to work? Now that I know how this works, I'm going to have to go back and refactor my code to make it workable, because what needs to happen is this comes down. Oops, did I manage to pause it just in time? I did. Okay. So this comes down, hits here. It's now the player's turn, or if this was the monster icon, it's the monster's turn. It needs to be told how the actor needs to decide what action it's going to do. That action is going to have a weight to it. That weight will move it up a certain amount. And it shouldn't start moving again until the animation for the attack is completed, which in most cases is going to be like, a second usually of delay. The actor will move over, leap over, do a quick attack, come back. Sometimes maybe do an attack in place, but I'll do a quick little attack animation, damage numbers pop up, all sorts of magic happens, and then the icon starts moving again. The problem is that this thing is so utterly self-contained that any attempts to make those kinds of modifications are going to fail. So here's the key. It's like this code only represents, what, about, I think I did an hour and a half on stream, and then I've poked at this for maybe another 45 minutes off camera. So there's 2 hours worth of work. Oh well, I'll burn it to the ground. That's prototyping. So I've got my lessons learned. So now I can go back through and start recreating this. So I am going to need to break everything. Now this is normally the point when I am doing prototyping. I don't know if you guys will pick up the sound. I bust out the paper. That doesn't work so hot when you're doing a stream. Draw.io. Very useful website. I've not used this much, but since I have no way of streaming me working on Pale, I mean, I guess I could take my web camera and, like, you know, point it down at my desk. Yeah, no, that's not going to work, I don't think. So let's try this. Draw.io. Very useful little program. Let's see here. I am going to yank my code off to the other side here. So what do I need? Do I have any way of putting notes on this? Actually, no, I don't think that's going to work very well. Hold on one sec while I try to figure out if I can get paper showing here. And I need to clean up my desk. No, that's not what I wanted. There we go. I have a cat while I try to figure this out. And let's see here. Let's turn that on. I'm going to turn off my mic so you're not hearing all sorts of jostling sounds while I try to get a few things set up here real quick. of works. Doesn't look like you can very easily see. What's going on with it? But nope, that doesn't work. Well, that would work if I had some way of holding the camera in midair right there. Okay, switch your purpose of stream. Because I can't really continue. It's not effective for me to try to continue down this particular rabbit hole. And you know what? Sometimes you will just find that, for whatever reason, pursuing a certain direction is not viable. So, there's plenty of other things to do for this. One of the big ones being animation, which I can do in a new scene. Because there's some questions on the animation side that also need to be determined. And let's see here. Toss you in there. Let me just actually pop back into here real quick. Now, the advantage of doing this, by the way, is that changes made to one scene is going to be shown up in the other scene as far as the terrain data. Because remember, these are both using the same test terrain data. So any changes that I make to this particular terrain, bring that brush size way the heck down. Well, assuming it's not a completely stupid change, I'm going to be obviously undoing that. If I come back over here to demo yep, see, there it goes. It's going to carry over. So that is a very useful thing, by the way. If you have a terrain component that, or terrains from two different scenes that share the same terrain data, then the terrain data is obviously going to be the same between the various scenes. So it's a nice little shortcut. And yeah, I don't actually want that, so let's flatten that back out. All right, so I am going to create a capsule to represent player. Reset. And because here's the thing, I need, let's just So I'm going to have multiple players. And make the monsters spheres. Oops, let's call you monster. So I'm going to have multiple players, multiple monsters, and I need to have the ability for this monster to be able to perform its attack animation on any one of these. And if I really wanted to go all out, I also have to make sure that it can be different positions here as well, because like I can have, you know, players lined up like this or like this. There could be different spacing. It's pretty flexible in terms of excuse me, how you can set up the player field. So what I am thinking, okay, so here's player 1. Let's create an empty. Let's call this attack target. Let's give it and let's go to monster and also give it an attack target. So I think the best method is, well, they usually have so they have a leap animation that gets them there. Then they do the attack. And they usually have a leap animation to get back. So probably the best approach to this would be to have an in-place animation play while I have it move towards there. Once that movement is finished, play the attack animation, and then play an in-place leap animation while I move it back. So let's add a cube. Let's change your scale. Now again, this is exploratory, so I'm not going to worry too much about the exact quality here. What I want to do is create a basic animation for the leap, basic animation for attack. So this would be, let's name these. Right fist. Left fist. Let's add a test animation control. UNQ back over here. Let's get animator and animation. windows open. And I think I'll just have, for the leap animation, let's record this. Oops. Control Z. Add property. Transform. Position. And on this keyframe, oops, nope, Control Z. Have the hands rise up. Okay, I did that wrong. See here. Okay, so add in those. Now I can hit record. Now I can come over here. What the? Oh, I added... Okay. Left fist rotation. I am apparently just not paying attention at all at the moment. So I got left fist position, rotation. Okay. All right, so let's record the animation again. So left fist position, right fist position. So you go, what the? You go up. You go up. Okay, and cheesy, but now let's go over to our animator. So actually, I want to create state empty. I want you to be my layer default. You are now going to be idle. If I had an actual idle animation, I would put it in there. I'll make a transition to leap. And a parameter. You know what? I might actually have more than one move type, so let's call this move underscore attack. No exit time. And now let's deal with the in-place. Right here. Let's deal with the in-place attack animation. Create a new clip. Again, add the position for right fist. Oops. And the position for left fist. This time I'm going to move the keyframe in. I only want the animation to take a half second. So move that in. Oh, right, because nah, cheesy, but it works. Actually completely unintentional, but you know what? That works. And then at the same time, let's add a key in here. Let's go to the left fist. Oops, nope, that's not what I wanted. Okay, let's actually get rid of that key. Put that there, add a keyframe. Add another key. Another key still on the left. There we go. As I've said many times before, there is a reason why I teach design and programming, not animation and art. Okay, so I have an attack animation. We'll add in an animation event here. Now I have to remember how you're supposed to add in animation events. And then, see here, come back to the animator. Okay, so I got player attack 1. Make a transition. Has an exit time. I definitely want to make that a bit snappier. So we'll make the transition duration 0.05 with the exit time at 0.95. And let's set up here. We'll say, yeah, this is not particularly efficient. And not set target. So I just want to test to make sure that that animation is going to work. And then stream has been going on for about an hour, and I need to do a couple of research things. So I think once I verify that my animation is going to behave the way that I think it's going to. Oh, right. It would probably help to move my camera. Oh, right, because I forgot to move a animator. Once the attack is done, again, I want this to be 0.5. What? No, you silly thing. 0.95 and 0.05. Thank you very much. And same thing here. Okay. And need to figure out a good way of moving them over. Which I think I will do later, because like I said, at the moment this has been an hour. This is about where I want to try to keep these experimental prototyping streams. So let's do a quick wrap up on lessons learned from this particular look at prototyping. Probably the biggest, in my opinion, would be the whole planning aspect. Now, when you start just slapping down code or slapping down actions in Playmaker, you are going to get yourself in trouble, like I've done with this code here. It is too much of a mess right now for me to continue working. I'm going to have to stop and rewrite it. Now, I don't regret the time that I spent on it. I did answer some very important questions, and it was easier to see the answers to those questions because I wasn't hyper concerned with getting everything exactly right. Now, because, it was focused on that one solitary task. How do I get the icon to do what I want it to do, which is, go up to the top. Oh yeah, I didn't show the knockback feature that also got implemented into that in a completely janky, hacky way. Because this is a thing that can happen. Did I knock out my knockback? I'd be sad if I did. Oh, right, the one key. You can see if I can knock it back, delaying it. And if it gets knocked all the way back up to the top, it actually re-triggers the pause. So, a lot of important lessons were learned from all of this, but at this point, it's too rigid. And that's the main takeaway, I guess, from this particular prototyping session. When you write code or do Playmaker actions without a solid plan, you end up with what I like to call very rigid code. At a certain point, it is going to vigorously resist change. And sometimes the only thing you can really do is go, okay, this is how it's working. Let's rewrite this. And unfortunately, that's a very dull / boring process. There's nothing I can really narrate. If I had the right setup so that you could see me write things down and plan things out on paper, it might be worthwhile. But I'm just not set up for that. I want to be, but I'm just not set up for that right now. So that I'm going to have to do off camera. And then the other thing is, don't be afraid while you're prototyping, don't do everything in one scene. It's like I need to do animation testing now. So let's open up a scene, figure out in this isolated scene how I want to set up the animations, always keeping in the back of my head how things are supposed to work over here in the target scene. And let's just get it figured out, get the animation set up, because I can easily bring those over to a different scene. And in this much quieter environment, figure things out, then bring it back over into the goal. So hopefully, again, this is being of some use to see my thought process on how I approach things and the kind of issues that I run into when I am completely off script. And so, yeah, either leave comments. I'll have a VOD, of course, of this up on the YouTube channel. If you want to, for some reason, rewatch any portions of it, leave comments there. Or in the case of my students, you can leave comments on the Discord channel as to whether or not you think this is useful. You know what? If you don't think this is useful at all for you guys, tell me. I'm not going to be offended. Likewise, for anyone watching the VOD, if you think this is pointless, the dislike button, you know where it is. And if you liked it, well, you know where that like button is too. So yeah, just let me know. All right, that is it. I'm done rambling. Have a cat. And I shall talk to you all later. Until next time.